just put on the recording, forgot. So let's move on with our usual reminder. This is a very, very powerful and important reminder. When you wake up, feel that you are entering the stage to play the role assigned by the Lord. Okay, the role has been given by Him. Pray that we may act it well. Let's understand that we must act appropriately as per our duty as a dharma of a student, dharma of a brother, dharma of a husband, and so on and so forth. Not only to act, but also to act in a way that we earn His approbation. And at night, when we retire to sleep, Bhagavan says, feel that you are entering the green room for after the scene, but the costume is still on. For perhaps the role is not yet over. Perhaps means you may be allowed to again get up tomorrow and do the same role or a different role, or hasta la vista, maybe no role. We don't know. You see, in Ukraine, a lot of sufferings. We see worldwide a lot of things where the role gets truncated. That word perhaps is very important here. So, brothers and sisters, when we take things as granted that no, we are going to wake up the next morning, we are going to be like this, think around, look into COVID. These situations have come to teach us a higher, spiritual truth, that nothing is permanent. The only thing which is permanent is our love for Bhagavan, our love for God, which carries through janmas, right? That eternal bond remains always. So let's focus where the returns are maximum. And then Bhagavan says, perhaps you have to make another entrance next morning. Do not worry about that. Place fully yourself at His disposal. A complete surrender. He says that as terms and condition. When you place fully at His disposal, when you place that, He knows, He has written the play. He knows how it will go on, how it will end. Use is but to act and retire. Act and retire is nishkama karma. Act and retire, not act and expect and retire. Act and retire. So nishkama karma. That means let us do the action to the best of our ability, offering to Bhagavan. And if the results are really not pleasant, even then let's thank and bow our head in Swami and say that, thank you, Swami, there must be something higher good in this for me. And that's where the surrender actually comes in. We can't be selective, right? So everything starts with a positive attitude, with the interest, with a self-effort, that you start in this journey. And when you start doing that, when you start with that affection and interest, faith develops in. When the faith develops in, we start looking into the bigger picture. And when we look into the bigger picture, the awareness, that acceptance, oh, this is happening because of this. Oh, Swami, I can understand why you're doing this. That awareness is important. Yesterday, I was listening to one of the talks. They're talking beautifully about memory and awareness. The difference. Memory is something with the past. Awareness is something which is omnipresent. Awareness teaches us a lesson and life moves on. It doesn't hold on to the past. Whereas memories, they cling to the past and they spoil our present and definitely going to mar the future. So it's very important that we stay in this awareness and sense of understanding why things are happening. And once we climb this ladder, when we have that acceptance and the looking into the bigger picture and faith, surrender and Sharanagati is automatically an offshoot which comes in. So it's an important part of a journey which starts with positive attitude, self-effort, interest. Why we are sitting here? Because we have an interest. Why we go to Bhagavan's this thing is because we have taken that first step of interest and self-effort, after which Bhagavan moves 10 steps towards us. So it's an important part of a journey to start, from our end. Okay. Now coming to the topic that we had, cosmic glue, the divine love. Let's get on with this and the next session. Why love has to be divine. Okay. This is because the very essence of the creation, before the beginning of the universe, I alone existed. I is the Bhagavan, the Param Tattva. So I alone existed other than myself. The self nature is called by the names of consciousness, wisdom, and supreme Brahman. And Bhagavan says, I separated myself from myself. Why? To love myself. So he's saying beautifully, I multiplied. It's like the mirror which breaks into pieces, and then one person is seen into hundreds of them. Bhagavan says, I multiplied, created the whole creation. The Srishti came out of me, everything because I wanted to love myself. What can be the better definition to understand the whole essence of creation? The whole basis of this creation is pure love. But what we see around, are we aligned to this divine curriculum or syllabus of pure love. We are not brothers and sisters. When devotee asks what motivated Bhagwan to create the world, Bhagwan says, God willed the world as he sport. The Prakriti is just the Leela of the Lord's set before it, so they became aware of his glory. All right. So let's keep this in mind that Bhagwan stated, I separated myself, and this is the highest Vedic truth, even separated myself from myself to love myself. Now let's go into the next one. He didn't stop there. Then Bhagwan said, there's only one caste of humanity. Okay. How to unify, how to melt the boundaries. He already gave this definition long time back, because he knew the Kali Yuga, this Kala Yuga is going to face these challenges of divine love. There is only one language of heart. Now, when we speak about hundreds of them, as you walk across, that's what I was telling somebody. There is one password globally for any Sai family. Brother Vaidyanath is here. And when we go to Dubai, I have been to many other places when I was sailing on a ship. There is only one password for divine love, for Sai love. That is Sai Ram. You say Sai Ram in any place, Sai center as you go, automatically you become a recipient of the Sai love. There is only one language of heart. There is only one religion of love. Now look at the emphasis Bhagavan has given. Not only started saying that the creation was made to love myself, he says there is only one religion. एक ही धर्म है, वो प्रेम का धर्म है. हम धर्म को मानते हैं, धर्म की नहीं मानते. You know, we follow we adhere to dharma as a concept, as a religion, but we do not follow its tenets. And then he goes on to say there is only one God who is omnipresent, omnipotent, and omniscient. Right? Now what to do? He has given this out, placed in a platter to every one of us. And then he says it doesn't end up there. Mere statement means it's theory. Now I need to do some practical about it. So then he says, I've not come here to disturb or destroy any faith. You know, that's something where everybody will be very itchy about. Oh, this is a new thing which has come up. He says, I haven't done that. What I've done is I have opened a workshop. Put apart I, put aparti, put apart the I. This workshop is something which is going to make you understand, just as when a small lion cub was separated at birth and went around with the lambs, moving around, grew up with the lambs, right? And then doing the similar kind of sound, eating grasses. When one fine morning, when the lioness was on a hunt, and she went into that herd to hunt, she saw this cub standing there. And the cub was also, you know, meek and doing meme and all that. So what did the lioness do? Bring the cub, hold the cub, bring it to the water where they were drinking and show the reflection. This is what you are. You are not the sheep. You are a lion. That's what Bhagwan's workshop is. We are not a man who is incidental, having trying to have a spiritual experience. That is, we are not human beings having a spiritual experience. We are spiritual beings who have come down to have a human experience. So Bhagavan said, I have opened this workshop so that what happens in this workshop is a Muslim becomes a better Muslim. A Christian becomes a better Christian. A Buddhist becomes a better Buddhist. A Hindu becomes a better Hindu. And we all attempt to become a better version of ourselves. So the theory part was great, and then he said it doesn't happen that way. Let me reform, transform, so that when they go back from Puttaparthi, they are better human beings, right? So that is what divine love does. You have seen innumerable devotees, even Brother Shastri, who has been a student of Bhagavan. The moment Bhagavan comes, we all have experienced. We think a lot of things where we can say or do, we start crying. The tears of joy, the tears of ecstasy pours out. What is that, brothers and sisters? That aura that comes and penetrates our being when Bhagavan walks, that aura is aura of pure love, divine love, right? It doesn't need words, language of heart. It just speaks by itself. All right. So this is an important part to understand, that divine love is the essence of the creation. And that is why we must keep loving each other. And then he goes on to define. Let's see what he has said. I've come to light the lamp of love in your hearts to see that it shines day by day. I've not come, Satsang speaks, volume 29. I've not come on behalf of any exclusive religion. I've not come on a mission. He makes it very clear. It's not about a mission opening. not for a creed or cause, not for collecting followers, no plans to attract devotees. I have come, observe this, what he has said, brothers and sisters. I've come to tell you this unitary faith, the spiritual principle, the path of love, the virtue of love, the duty of love, and lastly, the obligation. That means we all are obligated to love and only love. Where is the room for hatred? Where is the room for despise? There will be some proportion. Yes, when the cup gets dirty, when there is muddy water, how can you remove it? So we start pouring in fresh water. Slowly the mud comes out, spills out. So it's all divine love. It's all love for divine. It's all positive human values that we start bringing in more and more, that these negativities start spreading out. Okay. So with this obligation of love, have you ever thought of asking Swami to be our Valentine? We have this Valentine Day. I happen to be in one of the samitis in Madhya Pradesh during this time in India, Khandwa. When I went there, it was just a day before Valentine. I didn't realize that actually. But when the flowers were given, when the bouquets were given, and we had a session, then it just came to me. I said, my Valentine Day is done today. Brothers and sisters, what a Sai love I've received. And that is actually the whole purpose why Bhagwan created all this. So let's ask Swami whether he is ready to be our Valentine. And he says, if you deserve me, if you love me, you deserve me. So he's put a condition, right? We only desire him, we don't deserve him. And for deserving him, we need to love him selflessly, without an agenda. The most of the time our prayers and love is with an agenda. We have to love him with no reason, with no season, right? But are we able to give him that? Are we able to do him justice for the purpose that he has come and created this? Because man wants the grass but not the grace. Man wants creation but not the creator. He wants the gift but not the giver. And that's the irony, brothers and sisters, why we all are sitting here brooding, thinking, churning, how do we move forward in this spiritual journey where the only thing that we have priority in life is Sai, Sai and Sai. Tere Siva Prabhu, koi nahi hai, tujhko mera pranam. There is nobody besides you, my Bhagavan. And that is where we will be able to touch the chord. You know, the welding arc, when we do welding, you can see there is always a small gap. When the gap is big, there won't be any arc, so there won't be any action. As and when your intense tapas, sadhana, your prem, your yearning, your pining starts increasing, means the gap is reducing. At one fine morning of that pining, the arc will build in. And that arc is nothing but connected to the Sai. So it's important that we reduce that gap through all this process. And that process is not difficult. Just stop hating anyone. Just love more. Just feel his presence more. Just, sit down, don't react. Just respond when it is needed. Because reaction is always leading us into a multiple chain reaction of things coming back to us, accumulating us. The Shanti Prarabdha and Agami Karma that we spoke elaborately few months ago. So let's understand what he says more on this. God has only one attribute, love. That is his form. When someone converses with me lovingly, Bhagavan says, my joy knows no bounds. If people employ empty rhetoric without love, which possibly I'm doing, when we do a rhetoric without love, he's saying, I'm not pleased and impressed. You may be playing to the gallery, but to the divine gallery, I'm not impressed. And that is where I remember when Mirabai was singing. Again, this is an example which I stated earlier, when she was singing in Sant Haridas Darbar, and she was singing beautifully. At the end of the song, Sant Haridas says, Mira, tumne gaya to acha, magar rag mein nahi tha. You sang well, but it was not in the rag. And Mira says that, मानती हूँ गुरु, लोगों को रिझाने के लिए राग की जरूरत है. To please the world, राग is important. बट मेरे प्रभु, मेरे ठाकुर, मेरे कृष्ण को रिझाने के लिए अनुराग की जरूरत है, वो मेरे पास थी. She is saying that for pleasing the God, anurag is important. And that's what Bhagwan says. No amount of rhetoric, only love. And then he says, talk to me with a loving heart. Pray to me with a love-filled heart. Whatever you pray for me with a loving heart, I'll readily respond. Any amount of prayer devoid of love cannot reach me. Now look at this. When we sing bhajans 1 hour, in the Sai centers, wherever we are, when we do sevas, 3 hours, 10 hours, 8 hours, he's saying, if it is devoid of love, brothers and sisters, mark this out, it doesn't reach him. We have spoken so many instances of that. If you call me with love, I will respond immediately wherever I am. There is nothing greater than love. Therefore, if you wish to have the darshan of God, now look, he's giving us the mantra. If you wish to have a darshan of God and experience him, pray to him lovingly. We had so many instances everywhere. I was just reading one of the articles when one of the devotees, he's a student of Swami, and apparently in one fine morning, he had his wife and mother ill, seriously ill. And Swami was coming to his dream, come to Puttaparthi. And he was not, the moment he gets up, again the world takes over. Next day, again, come to Puttaparthi. And he's not going. So he's thinking because they're sick, he's not going. And then it was so powerful the third day, where old saint kind of figure also came and said, go to Puttaparthi. So anyway, so he picks up the baggage and he goes. And then that time, I think it is talk about Chennai, and there it was flooded. So the bridge that they were trying to cross, there was only one bus which was going to take them. And they were, so they crossed one place, and then this was the next bus which was going to take them to Parthi. And this bus was flooded. I mean, the water was coming up. And when he wanted to enter with his wife and mother, the bus driver said, no, it is full, you don't have tickets. So his baggage, what he has pushed in, was thrown out, and they were sitting somewhere because the water is flooding in. Now the intense pining and the prayer started. And there's an old man who appeared with a beard and all. He said, what's happened? You're crying. He said, no, I need to go to Parthi. And this is what happened. So the old man picks up the 3 tickets, gives it to him. Said, here are the tickets, go into the bus goes to Parthi. He didn't know, he just sat. And when he goes into that, the conductor says, how did you get the ticket? He said, I don't know, that old man is standing here, you can see he gave it. Conductor comes out and says, there's no old man there. So there's so many instances like this. We had Chore uncle who shared his session, last year, talking about how Swami manifested the whole bus with the conductor and everything to cross him in a Chennai on a night which was quite turbulent that time, right? And nobody knows. So this is how Lord responds, right? So let's be very, very, clear about when we pray, that if the prayer is mechanical and devoid of love, then I think we are just clocking time and doing our data of our daily prayers, stats. We pick up the stats. Otherwise, he remains distant. And then Swami says, love as thought is truth. Love as action is right conduct. Love as understanding is peace. And love as a feeling is non-violence. All right. So we have to understand how and why the love is important. But definitely being in the human form, being into this world, there are barriers, right? So let's see, the barriers are basically the multiple I and identities that we have created from the childhood or maybe from Janmas, where we have got entangled into various beads as a brother, as a son, as a wife, as a husband, as a, as a professional, as a boss, whatever it is. And this multiple I has created a koham. When a child is born, koham, why did I come? Who am I? Who am I? So the I becomes a big veil. And that I needs to be removed, to be scraped off or replaced with a bigger I. Draw a bigger line for a small line. And that bigger I is the highest self that we start loving, contemplating more and more, so that we are able to see him even in the crowds that engulfs us. That's what Colonel Jogarao used to see in Swami. Colonel Jogarao has been instrumental in so many architecture and buildings in Puttaparthi that you have seen, that he says, Swami, I don't have time, neither time nor technique for doing meditation or japa, Swami. What can I do? You gave in your discourse, japa, dhyana, meditation is like this, contemplation, concentration, meditation and all, but I can't focus. Swami says, there's no need for you to focus, Jogarao. You are doing Swami's loving service by so many other seva with your love. It is not you who will come to seek Swami. Swami is coming out and saying, Jogarao, Jogarao, Jogarao. How beautiful it is. So the whole journey that we have started is to realize that divine within. And from Koham to Soham. Brothers and sisters, we have a choice to extend this journey into multiple lifetimes. If it is in our hands, which is, Bhagwan has said, Divyatma Swarup Laras, believe in this statement that Bhagwan has given. Divyatma Swaruplaras. We are all embodiments of divine. We are all sparks of divine. I separated myself from myself to love myself. So when we separated from the God, that means we carry his Ansha, which is the Divya Ansha. So we are all sparks of the divine. So we have the potential to become this spark into a flame, into the bigger, consciousness that we are talking about. So Koham to Soham is a journey, and let's try to, follow absolutely with faith Swami's teaching, so that we end up this journey as much as we can, in this particular birth. And rest is his grace. Of course, his grace is like a lightning which strikes on the twig and turns into ash in a moment, so that no amount of cleaning, no amount of milk, nothing can clean and make it whiter, because once the grace comes, you're transformed, you're changed, and changed forever. So let's pray and yearn for that. So these Arshvagas, Kam, Krodh, Lobh, Mad, Moha, these are biggest barriers for us. Dehabhiman, they help us a lot to misguide us into a world, into a Maya, into a mind-oriented world, where the creation becomes more important than the creator, the gift becomes more important than the giver. And that's what Bhagavan has said. Man's biggest enemy is not ego, is not only the arrogance part that we're talking about, it's a sense of attachment to the body, a sense of, attachment with the body, and the connections that the body has with different. We start thinking this to be the actual part of the creation. And until we get into out of this domain, we are going to repeat this cycle on and not experience the divine love. So this is the biggest barrier of experiencing pure divine expansive love is this, right? Confined love is narrow, leads to contraction, infatuation, and very, very limited experience. Love for world leading to Dehabhiman, right? And then actually when we say we are living, L-I-V-E, you see I is prominent because we are living for this I, connected to the I. When the life is only about this I, okay, then we are living for the world, or we are in the worldly love kind of thing. But the I, when it replaces by O, which is others, then the true love comes. Then it becomes like we are living for serving others, for helping others, for loving others. And when we replace that I with O, with others, it becomes love, and then we are able to experience the divine love, right? So it's an important aspect of life. Live and love. Are we just living, or we are loving? Swami on types of love. Now Bhagavan says, love is of four kinds. Swartha prema is like a lamp kept in a room. The lamp illumines the room, okay, but the light is only confined to the room. So it's like a selfish love, which is only for your, maybe family or children or a limited group. That is called Swartha prema. And then comes Samajas prema, Samanjasa prema. Samanjas means trying to have this mixing up, is compared to a light from a moonlight, Bhagavan says, which is both inside and outside. It's, however, not very effulgent. This kind of love extends to a wider group, not very intense. So like, let's say from family to a little bit of friends that you have. The third is Parartha prema. And he says it's like a sunlight, both sunrise and sunset. He says it illuminates both inside and outside brilliance, but it's not continuous because it sets, right? How beautifully he has put. Because the sun sets, so this love is again confined. Likewise, this selfless love may appear to be absent sometimes, but will appear again. This is the Pararth Prema. And last is Yatharth Prema, or the Atma Prema. And that is what is divine love. He said this love is present always inside and outside in all places, imperishable. It is immanent in everyone. When this love is manifested by a person, he achieves the peace. How the love of divine manifests itself in a devotee is illustrated by the example of Vibhishana. Bhagavan says in this discourse, and he says what happened to Vibhishana was when Rama was fighting and attacking Ravana. So there was a Rakshasa who was attacking Rama, and the Rakshasa was very fearless. Rama was, and Vibhishana kept prompting, no, you have to kill this man. He is a great archer and a bodyguard of Ravana, and you have to penetrate this particular barrier to reach to Ravana. So Rama was fatigued by the evening, and he said, no, let's do it tomorrow. And Vibhishana said, no, he's dangerous. Don't do that. You have to kill him. So somehow Rama pursued and killed that Rakshasa. The moment the Rakshasa was killed, Vibhishana immediately collapsed. And then Rama went to him, what happened? I mean, I have killed the Rakshasa. I can see you are almost unconscious. He said, no, Rama, it's fine. I'll be better. this Rakshasa that you just killed was my son. But since he was so adharmic, since he was siding with Ravana, since he had all this, negativities, I wanted him to kill because we have chosen the dharmic way of, of moving ahead. So it was important for him to die. And then Bhagavan said, that is what is Atma Prema. That means for the love of dharma, for the purpose and the reason of dharma, righteousness, you can go to any extent to remove any eyes that is connected to you. Remember, we have spoken about it. Friendship with the Lord. Friendship with the Lord is with no compromise. Right? If anyone comes between you and Lord, we will not compromise. And that is what is Atma Prema. Right? Even Narada could not describe the nature of divine love. Where is this love to be found? It can be got only from Bhagwan himself. Do not treat lightly this infinitely valuable love which is eternal. Do not miss the opportunity given. It is only the devotion to his feet that will redeem you, Bhagwan goes on to say. All right. So are we all boarded the flight on this eternal journey? Are we in the plane? It's very important. I was listening to one of the online speeches of Brother Sundar Iyer, who speaks so well. He's a great ardent devotee. He was personal attendant of Bhagwan in the 80s. And he says that one day, it's a very emotional thing. What I remember, I can tell you that. And he said that he saw Swami very emotional one particular day, tears coming out. He said, Swami, why are you so emotional today? And Swami says that, the time has come, the purpose for which I have come. I've laid down the seeds of the dharma, the triple incarnation of, Shri Sai, Satya Sai, and Prema Sai. But I can't count even my fingers with the 5 of the devotees. Even 5 of the devotees can board the plane that has come to take off with you all. This was so powerfully hitting that are we not there yet? Have we been so selfish after receiving limitless divine love from Bhagwan that we have not given even the smallest part of the ego so that we can move ahead in this journey? Brothers and sisters, think about this. It's an important part to ponder. When Bhagwan said this to Brother Sundari, in fact, he was telling to the whole creation that I can't count even in my hand, fingers, how many devotees I have whom I can call true or devotee. All right. Okay. And then in Sandeh Nivarani, Swami says, I'll give you some selected jewels, maxims of conduct. And what he goes on to say, divine love should be considered as a very breath of life. It manifests in all the things equally. If that love which manifests in all equally, then it's divine love. The one supreme Atma is in every one in the form of divine love. More than all other forms of love, one's effort should be fixed. Only the love for the Lord. Such love directed towards God is devotion. Now he's saying devotion is not paraphernalia. Devotion is not something that we are doing. If it is devoid of love, we will not receive it. He says such love, if it is directed towards God, is devotion. And then a devotee asks, what is the purpose of a prayer, Bhagwan? And Bhagwan says, in whichever form the Lord is worship of favor that you ask for, desire for liberation, the Lord alone should be loved and nothing else. Love that, meditate on that, concretize that. So brothers and sisters, it is important to understand, and we all know he has been a Prema avatar, the Purna avatar. He used to call the devotees Prema Swaruplara. Why? Because he used to see that I've separated myself from myself. In you all I see that love. But we have eclipsed that love with various, multiple identities, Arshnavargas that has engulfed us. You're not able to radiate same back to him. So we have to set the priorities again back. We have to recalibrate ourselves, brothers and sisters. And these sessions, the radio sai, the bhajans, the seva, consciously be aware that these are opportunities which God has given us to reform, transform ourselves. All right. Reprioritize when God becomes the first priority, the world the next, and lastly the I, which is us. Just as these masters did, whether it was Mirabai who defied her husband, whether it was Bharata who defied his mother, Prahlada who defied his father, Vibhishna who defied his brother, King Bali who defied his guru Shukracharya. All of them, Bhagwan says, Matra Devo Bhava, Pitra Devo Bhava, Acharya Devo Bhava, Atithi Devo. These are all good, but when anyone comes between you and God, forsake him or her. Forsake in this sense, don't just renounce and go to the forest or whatever. Forest is something which is state of mind. Forest is for rest, as we spoke last time, to keep that state of mind. But it's about, for us, to start loving more and more Bhagwan, and then come to the state where we say, I choose you and only you as a charioteer of my life. When Swami Vivekananda, in his childhood days, when he was thinking about alternating dreams, what to become and not, one day his mother asked and he said, I want to become a Tongawala, the charioteer, and look at the mother, that is why we say mothers are so important. Bhuvaneshwari Devi, she took him to the altar and said, okay, you want to be a Tongawala, I accept that, but be a Tongawala like that person. Lord Krishna's photograph was there with a chariot. He said, if you want to be a Tongawala, be like him. And that's so important. Yeah. When we, as mothers, guide our children, tell them, let us give them the highest examples, the best examples with our scriptures are laden with, rather than getting into this worldly, heroism or temporary heroism that we see, and we misguide them. In fact, when we see them emulating some other individuals, our whole scriptures are loaded with such examples. Ramayana, Mahabharata, just make them understand. Read it out. Ram Katha Raswaini, try to listen to radio sites, so beautifully explained. Bhagwan has himself written down, right? These will help us to guide and make us the right choice, our children the right choice, that I choose you. And then there is a gulf of difference between worldly love and divine love. And then Bhagwan goes on to say, this is worldly love where the entire family and things are there in your mind. And this is a divine love where we are trying to grow that more and more, so that the effulgence engulfs our being more and more. Worldly love receives and does not, only receives and does not give. Divine love is selfless. It is not mindful of praise of blame. It is desireless and continuous. You will not even find a trace of selfishness. Then Bhagwan says, worldly love is born out of sense of attachment. Hence, has an expiry date. You see how beautifully it's said. The worldly love has got an expiry date. It is subject to conditions, right? If you give in the anniversary this, if you do in the birthday this, if you pay the fees, if you do this, it has got a lot of terms and conditions, brothers and sisters. But what Bhagwan has terms and conditions, just love me. Just love me. That's it. You do whatever you want. Give the power of attorney. Oh, Swami, please think through me, feel through me, act through me, behave through me, conduct through me, love through me. Possibly he will do that. Right? Divine love, the Veda declares, it's not originating from the firmament. It did not grow from earth. It has no birth and no death. No death, that means no expiry date. It is all pervading. It emerges from the heart where the knots of ignorance are broken. So when does the divine love manifest? You see, again, beautifully Bhagwan has said, when the knots of ignorance are broken, that means mine and thine, me and him or her, whatever. When these boundaries start melting away, then the divine love starts manifesting. When you start loving people for no reason or season, when you just feel happy about things, without any changes in life externally, like you got a lottery or you got a car or a house, you just feel happy getting up that day. Just understand that you are experiencing the divine love, Sai Sannidhi. Then Bhagwan goes on to say, worldly love binds and blinds, right? It's contracting, whereas divine love is expansive, liberates. Worldly love deals with the valuables. This is something which I just put in. Worldly love deals with valuables and shelves. Divine love deals with values and self, not the shelf. Worldly love lives by getting and forgetting. Bhagwan says it's full of selfishness. Divine love lives by giving and forgiving. Worldly love based on raga. Divine love is based on anuraga and vairaga. So it's important to understand the divine love in the right perspective. This is an unparalleled and incomparable prema tattva. Is the only divine love. Divine love is like a marinus compass, Bhagwan says. Never mind where you go, it will always point towards the Lord. All right. So, okay, this is the last slide we'll take, and then we'll get on with the 108 names. Recalling an interview to Hyderabad boys in 1980, Swami said, my dear children, from today, all of you need to develop love in your hearts. This love I'm talking about is not the love which you have think all the time in cinemas. And then he categorically is saying, it's not that what you see in the cinemas or whatever all the time. That is mad love. All that love is shown in cinemas is contraction. What I'm speaking is expansion. When the boy asks, what is the difference, Bhagwan, between these two? Bhagwan says, when you talk of something of mine, it is selfish. Okay, the love that comes with selfishness is called contraction of love. The love that does not expand and is limited has a boundary. Whereas when we talk of the love with the divine, that emanates from such a divine feeling is called expansion of love. So cinema is contraction of love, and Sine Ma is expansion of love. Sine Ma means in the heart you have Ma, mother side. So it's expansion of love. And we end up with this, Samuel Sandys, when he was writing this book, the title of the book was Man is God. So he wanted Swami to basically bless it and sign it. Now what happened when he presented this book, Swami signed just before Man is God, Swami wrote with love and put his signature. So then this struck him, and then he changed the title of the book to With Love, Man is God, and went to Swami, said, Swami, what a beautiful message you have given. Swami says, yes, that's the reason why I've written. The title of the book should be With Love, Man is God. You see how empowered is this word love, where all it can take us. And we are talking about the expansion of the divine love. That's for all of us to experience and to experiment and then to bask in his love and glory in the days to come. I think we'll end this particular session today at this point of time. And I would request Brother Shastri to come on with one of the 108 names, Mahatmana. Brother Shastri.
Sairam, brothers and sisters. So I think Brother Bindu has spoken everything on love today. So we have Swami's 108 name, Om Sri Sai Prematmane Namaha. He's the embodiment of the love itself. The inner core of him is love. We have seen it in action for us, the humanity at large, through the three important projects that we have: the education, the hospital, and the water projects. The mega projects, I think that itself, to think of them, I think really makes us understand his love for the humanity. But apart from that, I think so many miracles, so many experiences that almost every single devotee must have been carrying in their heart, definitely stands for this name. So there are just two incidents. I think we have spoken many times about Barnowski's seeing Swami, yes, through his kilography, that special camera, the expanse, the kind of aura that Swami has been carrying. And so I think without whether an experiment is done, not done, whether somebody, so it is his true nature that the love is the inner core for which he had come to share that love with all of us, and whether you are near or you are far. So there's one another miracle was that in 1960s or so, one couple visited Swami Puttaparthi, and for the first time Swami called them for interview. And in the interview, Swami said that why you people look so worried. Then Swami corrected the wife, saying that, okay, you all, your husband feels that you're worried because of the financial distress, etc. But I know the real worry that you're carrying because of your brother. This brother of the lady was injured in the freedom struggle in 1940s. He was hit with the lathi charge. I mean, huge lathi, the stick that the police carry during that freedom struggle. And he became unconscious. He was not normal since 1940s. Swami said that is the root cause that you're worried. Who will take care of your brother? And you always pray that God is your brother, mother, father. So I'm there to take care. By the time they reach home from Parthi back home, the man who was for 24 years, kind of unconscious state or is not in normal state, just was standing at the door to welcome them. So a word of Swami there has made him come back to his normal senses. So see, there are so many incidents like that. I think so many letters or experiences that the one word of Swami in a letter that Swami writes and sends it, before the letter reaches there, it has already happened. So like that, he has come to show us the path of love and to live in love and share the love with everyone, which is the true nature of every one of us. I think that is what he has come and has been speaking about time and again. Sairam.
Absolutely. Beautiful. And I was sharing the other session that I was having one day with the Mumbai some devotees. They were also, we had a sharing session. Uh, Phyllis Crystal, when she was in the flight, and there were terrorists who had taken over the flight, ready to bomb the flight. And what did she get in a contemplation meditation that time? Swami said, send my love. So she was radiating, she was loving, sending love to these terrorists who were planting a bomb to explode the flight. And she has documented this in her book.
Yes.
And eventually the terrorists became so overpowered by the unseen, whatever radiation you can see of love, that they surrendered. They didn't blow the plane. They were caught, they were handed over. And I don't know the rest part of it, but this is a live example of how she transmitted, radiated love just by thought and feelings. And we'll talk about that. Why thoughts and feelings of radiating love is so important. It has been scientifically also established. So we'll do that in the sessions to come, hopefully from Singapore next time. But it is so beautiful always to be a part of this journey of sharing, the divine love, that you get that divine unction in you when you share.
The brother Bandhu, incidentally, 2 weeks
Yes.
before, since you were absent, we conducted a session about the same subject, right, Brother Shastri? About the experience. I went through that books,
Okay.
snippets, what she made, what she wrote, in fact, her own wordings. Is this incidental? Like I was enjoying this because how are we connected? Because when you are absent 2 weeks before, we conducted a session about the same divine love.
Okay. Yeah. Now I remember. Yes. I think
prompted me same thing.
2 sessions prior to this. Yeah.
We gone through that the embodiment of love. Swami talks starts with embodiment of love, and we end with love. Man becomes God. Thanks, brother. That is how he is connecting dots.
True. Yeah, brother Sri, you're not coming. We can't hear you.
I just told that. Okay, since today again,
Okay.
today in Temple Seva in the morning, 4 o'clock onwards, we were in temple. We cooked food and distributed to dormitory and all. Just now came, and when I came, I was interested to hear that because anyway, I don't want to miss this session. Right? So, but I told is 2 weeks before also we had this subject, and that subject is continuing. The purpose is very clear. We have to correct our GPS to the divinity in love.
Yeah, we'll go a little more on this because it's such a topic. Of course, with our limited, scope and effort. But Swami will bless us through all this journey to understand His love, why it is so important, and hopefully we become a better version of ourselves someday. Sai Ram. So we'll end up with Samasta Loka, and then we catch up again 2 weeks later. समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु समस्तलोकाः सुखिनो भवन्तु ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः जय बोलिए भगवान श्री सत्य साई बाबा जी की जय. Sai Ram, once again, brothers and sisters, have a great Sunday, a blessed Sunday, and lovely days ahead. We'll catch up again. Sai Ram. Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.